Hello, welcome to Nahashon Kimeme Live. And so today I'll be talking about the rise of Fred Okengo Matiang'i. Hope I pronounced it correctly. So this was a topic that was suggested by a friend of mine, and I thought that I would speak about it. The exact topic that my friend requested was the rise of Matiang'i and ramifications on the Republic. A friend of mine called Zirongo. So I thought that I might tackle this issue, right? But you see, the problem was I didn't know much about Matiang'i. So I could not analyze him until I analyzed the man. Remember that the rise of a person in power does not necessarily mean that that man will get to the ultimate level of power. A classic example is John McCain. He rose to power on the Republican ticket, but he could not defeat Obama, even though Obama was defeatable. So they had to wait until Trump came around and he defeated Hillary. So anyway, just to start on it, you have to know the man, not only the rise. So that's how I'll start it so that I can answer this question properly and exhaustively. So who is Fred Matiang'i? Okengo Matiang'i. So he's the Cabinet Secretary for the Ministry of Interior and Coordination of National Security in Kenya, right? So how did he get to that position? There's a person, his name was General Joseph Nkaiseri, and he died. He died of suddenly. I believe that it was an illness. I believe the media reported it as an illness. And so that's how he got into power. At that time of Nkaiseri's death, he was the Education Cabinet Secretary. The Cabinet Secretary for Education, Science and Technology. So when Kaiseri died, he took over 2 positions, right? So that's how much they trusted this guy. That's how much Uhuru trusted this guy. And then, just to mention one thing, George Saitoti is also a Cabinet Secretary for a Minister for Interior, and he died suddenly. It was a helicopter crash, right? A lot of foreigners were implicated in that thing. I'm not sure what really happened. So anyway, they say that Saitoti was too wealthy to be bribed, so he had to be eliminated. That's what, I think that was an opinion, but Matiang'i, I can't remember, but I agree with that opinion. So anyway, this docket, it's a bit tricky, and hopefully Matiang'i won't succumb to what his predecessors succumbed to, right? That's our hope. So apart from being Cabinet Secretary for Interior and Coordination of National Security and Education, Science and Technology, he was also the Cabinet Secretary for Information, Communication and Technology, ICT, right? So right now, the new appointment was kind of like he's serving as the head of all projects by the government in Kenya. I'll talk about that in a few, right? So how powerful is his docket? Even before this new appointment, how powerful was his docket? The Ministry of Interior and Coordination is not a joke, right? Because he's in charge of the State Department of Interior. He's in charge of the State Department of Correctional and Rehabilitation Services. That's Kenya prisons. He's also in charge of State Department of Immigration, Border Control, and the registration of persons. So just to go to the State Department of Interior, that's 100,000 police officers under him, right? The ratio of police officers, according to Uhuru Kenyatta, was 1 to 390, right? According to another body, it was 1 to 489. I cannot believe the 1 to 489 figure because it matches with our population, right? So Matiang'i is in charge of one person who oversees, let's say, 489 Kenyans. That's a highly powerful docket. If he wants to get to somebody, he will get to somebody. And whatever he's doing as the head of that docket, people at the bottom would feel it. Because that ratio, whatever they're doing in that ratio of officers is a bit high. So anyway, he's a powerful guy. Again, the register of persons, I think yesterday I did an article on how they're going to have everything when it comes to our DNA. Our earlobe geometry, our iris patterns, our voice patterns, and our fingerprints. He's the person who will be in charge of the person who that thing will fall under, the registration of persons, right? So he's a very, very powerful guy. If he wants to get to somebody, he can get to somebody. Immigration department, you all know how powerful it is. And nobody more than Miguna, right? So anyway, so who is he? Besides these positions, who is he? Matiang'i. He was born in Borabu constituency in Nyamira district, right? He is a Seventh-day Adventist. Now, a bit of history about the Seventh-day Adventists. They came in Kenya in the early 1900s. They came to the coast, the Muslims had already taken over. They came to Nairobi, other guys had already taken over. They went to Kisumu, other guys had already taken over. So they went into the interiors. Like they went into Karachuonyo in the Nyanza region, and then they went to Nyachwa in Kisii. So that's why we see many SDAs within that area, because they kind of like skip these other areas because other guys had already formed. We'll also see another prominent person who was also an SDA. His name is Simon Nyachai, and his relationship to Matiang'i. So anyway, Matiang'i went to Kenyatta University, where he did what? A Bachelor of Arts in Education. So many people, I remember some of the education students back in campus, they really did not like their course. And they were always seeking for other courses. And here is Matiang'i, who did a BA in education, and he's rising to a very, very powerful position in government, right? So perhaps it's not the degree that gets you to where you are, perhaps it's the person that matters. And that's why I'm looking at the person right now. So he went to University of Nairobi, right? He did a master's in English. Do not look down upon whatever you are doing. You can succeed with any tool that is before you. It is the person who holds the tool that matters, not the tool that you are given. Of course, you need to sharpen the tool. Be the sharpest tool that you can have. And then from there, you can succeed. And then he did a PhD in comparative literature. So this guy did not do law. He did not do medicine like Halwale, law like Senator Mutula Kilonzo. He did not do what we'd normally consider as a lucrative or a career that can, a course that can guarantee you success. He did not do that. It was him. He guaranteed himself success by his hard work. And we'll see. I got this information from this. Okay, he worked as a primary school teacher in Kisii. That bit of information, I got it from Career Point, right? The rest I'm getting it from The Standard, The Nation, and other sources, right? Credible sources. Career Point, I don't think it's a really credible source. So that's why I'm mentioning it here. So they say that he worked as a primary school teacher in Kisii. So he started small. He didn't even go to secondary school at first. He started a primary school teacher. So starting humble is still okay, isn't it? And isn't this guy proof that when you start, from a humble position, when you even do what you'd consider a humble cause, don't let it get into your head that you won't succeed. You can. And you can rise to a very powerful position in government, like this guy did. So anyway, he taught at Egerton University, and then he taught at the University of Nairobi. At the University of Nairobi, he taught at the English department at UN, right? Kivutha Kibwana, I think he taught law, right? Matiang'i taught English at the English department. And now he's in one of the positions where people are asking, can this guy be president? You can make it if you want. It's the person who holds the tool. Sharpen that tool and then use it for the purpose that it was built for, right? But the person who holds the tool matters the most. The tool also matters just a bit. And also how you sharpen it. So anyway, he was a columnist for the Daily Nation. I think Bitange Ndemo is also a columnist for the Daily Nation, right? But you can see how Matiang'i has moved and how Bitange Ndemo has moved. So this guy consulted for various organizations, USAID, right? Canadian International Development Agency, CIDA. There is also the Swedish International Development Agency. So this is Canadian International Development Agency. And then that's what he did the work for. He consulted for the World Bank, for the Westminster Foundation for Democracy, for the Inter-Parliamentary Union, and for Transparency International. So this guy did a lot of consulting work. And what does the consulting involve? People, your product is your brain. That's your product. that people are coming to ask you questions. How do you do this? How do you do that? So this guy, he seems to be the person who knows how to do things. And you can see from his history as a worker, right, that many people consulted him. You can see from his education past, that this was not the career that he was mostly built to. He didn't study business. He didn't study, let's say, development, like economics. He didn't do that. He did education, and he mastered in other courses like English. He did comparative literature. But people, he had brains. So what you really did in campus, it doesn't really define you, right? But you define yourself. There's somebody who said, nobody is built like you because you built yourself. So build yourself, regardless of what you did or of what you did not do. You can still succeed. So anyway, he conducted research for the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association. These ones are from Career Point. Again, Career Point. So anyway, just mentioning Parliament of Ethiopia, Parliament of Uganda, and the East African Legislative Assembly. So even the parliamentarians, even the policy makers, the law makers, right? They consulted this guy because this guy had brains. Perhaps he did not study a course that would consider that those people can have this knowledge that parliamentarians would need, that development economists would need, that those kind of people would need, right? But when it's inbuilt in you, it's inbuilt in you. Activate it, right? We are all the same. Activate the power that is in you. So anyway, highlights of his time in government. Remember, he was the Minister of Information, Communication and Technology back in the day. Do you guys remember the media shutdown? There was NTV, okay, not really the media shutdown, but the digital migration from analog to digital TV. And guys were complaining, like NTV, KTN, and Citizen, they joined together and they complained, we do not have time to import equipment and set up digital migration. We need more time. You guys are favoring a foreign company. Pang. We need more time. And then Matiang'i asked a very nice question, because he asked, who owns NTV? Isn't it the Aga Khan? So when these guys are complaining that the government was favoring a foreigner, then who is NTV? If they were favoring locals, then they would favor KTN and Citizen. So anyway, that's a bit of digression. So these guys were given a deadline. They wanted to go past that deadline. Matiang'i said no. He gave back into the Communications Authority of Kenya. And so today we have digital migration. And it moved at that point. Just list the number of TV stations that you have. If you have a smart TV or if you have a digital TV, right? Just list the number of stations that you have, local stations, and see how they have grown exponentially. And they grew out because of this policy, digital migration, because it kind of like freed the airways. It made it cheaper for guys to have television stations and to bring them on board. And Matiang'i said that we will not push this any further. It will happen today, at that time. And it happened at that time. So anyway, again, he was the Minister for Education, Science, and Education, Science and Technology. Yes, I am right. So anyway, so what happened during his tenure, right? In 2015, I think he had just gotten in at that time. There were 2,685 A's in the KCSE results. In 2016, after Matiang'i is now in office and is sitting pretty on that docket, there were only 141 A's. These guys did not, the number of A's did not go down by half. It did not go down by a quarter. It went from 2,685 to 141 A's. What was this guy doing in that docket? He was restructuring it. There were no cases of examination cheating at that time. no candidate had their results cancelled. Results from KCSE were released within a month. Back in the day, it was 3 months. This is Matiang'i, and that is what he was doing. And how did guys react to that? Like, you remember, NTV, KTN, and Citizen reacted by saying, no, 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 we need more time. We are favoring these guys instead of favoring us, all of those things. So how did they react to these 2016 results? The Kenya National Union of Teachers demanded a forensic audit. It felt that this drop was too much. And I felt that it wanted to hit Matiang'i. But how do you hit him when there's no cheating? When no student has his or her results cancelled? How do you hit them? Isn't he doing a good job? So anyway, another highlight when Matiang'i was in office, after the swearing in of Raila in January 2016, the swearing in ceremony, right? Miguna, and I think who else? Those are the guys. And they were swearing in Raila, right? So there was a lot of hula baloo about that. So Matiang'i shut down radio and TV stations during the swearing in of Raila. He outlawed the National Resistance Movement. He gazetted the movement as an organized criminal sect. The Flying Squad, again, he was the Minister of Interior, Security, Coordination of National Security. The Flying Squad was under him, police. They picked up the Flying Squad. They picked up Ruaka MP, TJ Kajwang. They picked up Miguna, Linus Kaikai, and Larry Madowo. And everybody was, a large section of the population was furious at this guy for what he was doing. In fact, the LSK Society of Kenya, they moved to court and they sought to declare the ICT guy, he's called CS Joe Musheru, and Matiang'i, the Interior for the Interior Security Cabinet Secretary. The LSK wanted the court to declare this guy is unfit to hold public office because they had shut down these television stations. So guys will always react somehow to whatever you're doing with a lot of negativity. Like even when I do my videos, some guys react with a bit of negativity. Should I stop with the videos? Should have Matiang'i stopped at enforcing order in this nation at that time? You do not stop. You move forward. So anyway, he did. And we had peace. And those guys who are fighting, they now have a handshake with Raila, with Uhuru. What about those guys who died? If Matiang'i had allowed this order to continue, and more guys would have died, only for the other guy to have a handshake with the guy they were fighting with. I believe that he did the right thing. Do you? So family life, Matiang'i has a wife and he has 2 children. And there's something there's something about Margaret Kenyatta and Uhuru Kenyatta and his bid for the presidency. People say that you cannot become president unless you have a family or a wife. So anyway, I'll just leave it at that. There's something about Margaret and Uhuru Kenyatta. I wanted to mention it in case of Matiang'i, because he already has that locked, wife and children and kids. So I don't think that will be an issue when it goes forward. So back to the politics of Matiang'i, right? Again, born in Borabu constituency. Okay, so Borabu is not kind of like a new thing. It took number 5 in the 2013 KCPE results, the 5th position. So it produces people, right? Borabu has a population of 58,000 people. I think it's similar to the population of Zimmerman along Thika Road. Zimmerman has around the same population, either around 55,000 to 60,000. Borabu has 4 wards: Makenene, Kiabo Nyuru, Esise, Nyasiongo. I think Nyasiongo is the headquarters. So the governor right now of Nyamira County, in which Borabu constituency is John Nyagarama. The MP is called Ben Momanyi, right? So I wanted to mention, so this is where Matangi comes from. They have produced leaders. Population is a bit small from his exact region, but still, I wanted to talk about can he become president? For him to become president, I believe that he needs the support of his community where he comes from. And the Kisii, they have this guy who was legendary, and he was the founder and patriarch of the Kisii. I hope I have this right. He's called Mogusi, right? Founder and patriarch of the Kisii community. The Kisii migrated from the north. They actually say Misri. But anyway, we'll talk about that on another day. So, the guy who comes closest to Mugusi is Simeon Nyachai. You can actually call him the real OG, the original gangster. So he was the richest, and I believe he's still the richest, I'm not sure. He was the richest and most influential man in Kisii. I think he's still the richest, most influential, perhaps not. Why? Because there's somebody rising. But they have a relation. I'll talk about that. So Simeon Nyachai, again, he's a member of the Seventh-day Adventist. I've given a bit of history about that. He was a descendant of a colonial chief, Musa Nyandusi. I think Michuki was also the son of a colonial chief, I'm not sure, right? Charles Njonjo, I am sure that he was the son of a colonial chief. So the sons of home guards, they really had it good, right? So Matiang'i was Nyachai's private secretary between 1987 and 2002. 1987 we had the elections, 2002 we had another election, right? Moi won in 1987, 2002 Kibaki won. I'll talk about that election. So Nyachai was the chief secretary in the civil service, he was the minister for agriculture, he was the minister for finance. I believe that he was a member of the Kisii community who moved to the highest level of government and who amassed the most wealth. And he started back in the day. So let's go to his school life. In 1953, he was to sit for his ordinary level school certificate, but he withdrew from school. But he was the descendant of a colonial chief, Musa Nyandusi. So when you're the son of a colonial chief and you withdraw from school, what happens to you? He was employed at his father's chief camp as a district clerk in 1954. And that's what happens in Kenya. Again, education does not define who you are. If you're rich, you can still get to where you want to go. And if you're poor, you'd have to work hard. So Matiang'i worked hard. From a primary school teacher, to all of those dockets that he held, to all of those ministries. And it was only his work, his highlights in government, his resilience against opposition that enabled him to get where he was. But in Nyachai, he was given a position of a district clerk. Because when you're rich in Kenya, you can get somewhere. When you're poor, you have to be exceptional. So anyway, the father took him to London to study, and then he returned in 1960, right? So when he returned to 1960, he became a district officer in Kangundo Division. Then he became a district commissioner in 1963, a provincial commissioner between 1965 and 1979. So right from his ancestor, Nyandusi, Musa Nyandusi, all the way to 1979, that family has never left government. And it started with the blessings of the colonial administrators. And his son was in government, right? Because he was heading one of the commissions, the Agenda 4, I think it was called the Agenda 4 commissions. So the family, and that's what happens. That's what happened with the colonialists. That's the guys they left us with. So his election to parliament, he got into parliament in 1992 for the Nyari Bari Chache constituency, right? And when he got from government as a rich man. Perhaps it was because of his businesses, perhaps it was because of his position in government. Because we all know, when you're in government, there are tenders and contracts. So anyway, Matiang'i might have to do the same thing. He might have to move from the civil service to to politics, actual politics. He's doing fundraisers and all of those things, but they may not be enough. At some time, he might have to put his name on a ballot. So the question is, like Obama, he went from senator to president. Can Matiang'i go from civil service to president? It's difficult, but nothing is impossible. And his history actually shows. He did education, masters in English, but he consulted for developmental economists, developmental agencies, for parliamentarians, MPs. This English teacher, lecturer at university, he did all of that. So anyway, what are guys saying about Matiang'i within his community, within his backyard? Because charity begins at home. So the Nyaribari Chache MP, Richard Tongi. Remember Nyaribari Chache was Simon Nyachai's constituency. He says, Matiang'i is following in the footsteps of great leaders from the community. He mentions Lawrence Sagini, James Nyamoya, Zakarai Onyonka. These were cabinet ministers. And Tongi also says, it is time for the members of the Gusii communities to rally behind their son. The National Assembly Deputy Majority Leader, Jimmy Angwenyi, this is what he says. Matiang'i has put the Gusii community on the national map by his good performance. It was not his father who put him as a clerk in government, as they did to Nyachai, but his good performance, according to Angwenyi, it has led him to where he is. North Mugirango MP, Joash Nyamoko, he says, Joash Nyamoko is the chairman of the Gusii Parliamentary Caucus. And this is what he says. The community should unite to boost its bargaining power in future political arrangements. He is grateful to President Kenyatta for seeing leadership ability in Matiang'i. Again, remember, when Nkaiseri died, Uhuru saw it better to give Matiang'i 2 positions than to appoint a new person to take over from Kaiseri, right? Boncha, North Mugirango Burabu constituency separated from North Mugirango constituency, right? So that's just a point. Bonchari MP, Oro Oyi Oka, he says, the Gusii community is now ready to produce a leader to serve the country at the national level. So all of these leaders are feeling like Matiang'i is the person and could be the guy. Because there was Simon Nyachai, but Nyachai never got them to the presidency. Who is the Mugusi? The one that will push the Kisii community, not only from founding and being a community, but to leading other communities. Who is that guy? Is it Matiang'i? Let's learn from the lessons of Simon Nyachai. Ford People was the party of the Kisii community. They won 14 out of 210 seats in the National Assembly in 2002. They won all of the Kisii community seats in 2002. So the Kisii community can unite under one banner, like these other guys are trying to say. The MPs from this area, the leaders of the parliamentary caucus groups. Ford People supported Simon Nyachai for president. As other guys were uniting, right, for the presidency, for Kibaki, NAC, National Rainbow Coalition, the Kisii community was uniting behind Simon Nyachai. Remember, when other communities were supporting the constitution, William Ruto was conducting a census. So Simon Nyachai came in third with 5.9% of the electoral vote. Third is not a bad thing. But here's the thing. Kidole kimoja hakiui chawa. They cannot do it even if they unite as a party. They have to seek for arrangements. Arrangements, as Joash Nyamoko is saying. So what can they do? Perhaps they can unite with their neighbors. There's Bomet County to the east of Nyamira County, the county where Matiang'i comes from. He can unite with the Kalenjin community from that area. Or the Narok, or go to Narok, to the south of Nyamira, where you'll find the Maasai. Perhaps you can unite with the Maasai. Kisii County to the west, those are fellow Kisiis. and the Kisiis have shown that they can unite. So that's already on lock. He can go to Homa Bay County to the north and unite with the Luo community. He can go to Kericho County to the northeast and unite with the Kalenjin community. But would they still win, even if he unites with his neighbors? In 2009, we did a census. The Maasai were 0.84 million. The Abagusi were 2.2 million. The Luo were 4.8 million. Even if these guys, all of them unite, they cannot win an election. Because the Kikuyu were 6.6 million. They just need just a million people, and they would beat this coalition. So uniting, it won't work. Perhaps they can unite with the Kalenjin, and that would be 7.2 million people under one banner, based on the 2009 census. But then the Kikuyu would actually need, again, just 1 million people, and they would win the elections. So perhaps they can unite with the Luya, who are at 5.3 million. The Abagusi at 2.2 million. Again, that will only produce 7 million people. The Kikuyu would only need 1 million people, and they would win. And of course, the Luya would never unite. So here's the lesson. For the Abagusi to win, they need the support of a particular community. And that is the Kikuyu community, in my opinion. And it seems that the Kikuyu community has faith in Matiang'i. And the people of Abagusi are uniting behind Matiang'i. So perhaps this is the guy who could lead them to where Simon Nyachai never got them, to the presidency, to the leader of communities. So Uhuru appointed Matiang'i, right? He constituted a committee. It's called the National Development Implementation and Communication Committee. And it has all the Cabinet Secretaries as members. And who is to lead this committee? It is Fred Matiang'i. Simon Nyachai got to the position of Minister of Finance. In this committee, the Treasury Secretary, Henry Rotich, is deputizing Fred Matiang'i. Uhuru continues to have faith in Matiang'i because he moved the motor vehicle registration and certification procedures to him. It's primarily a Ministry of Transport thing, but he moved it to Matiang'i because he has faith in him. So that is the thing. And I believe that Matiang'i has a chance, but he only has a chance based on one thing, that to push him forward, you have to push him as a performer. And perhaps they will succeed in doing that. Because then, if he has this community behind him, and then he has his community behind him, he just needs a trickle amount of votes from the others, and it's done. And perhaps the Kikuyu community can unite behind him if they see him as a performer, if they do not see him as a threat. But guys like Murathe are already afraid of William Ruto. William Ruto might be the comeback kid. He might rise from political situations that we never thought somebody could rise from, right? But Matiang'i might be the person who knows how to sustain a fight and to win it slowly. So anyway, that's what I had for today. I hope that it has been informative. I will do something else on Matiang'i. I will see you guys tomorrow. Thank you for my 188 subscribers. Please be the 189th subscriber. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening. See you on Monday at 5 p.m. Bye-bye.